It was a bright and sunny morning in London, the kind of day where the sky looks like someone painted it light blue, with just a few soft clouds floating lazily. Tourists from all over the world were walking through the streets near Buckingham Palace. Some were holding cameras, some were holding ice creams, and some were just walking around, trying to get the perfect view of the royal palace. Among all these people there was one little girl, Emily. She was only 6 years old, but her excitement was bigger than any adult standing there. Emily had come to London all the way from Canada with her parents. Her father, Mr. Thomas, was a teacher, and her mother, Mrs. Clara, was a nurse. This was their first big international family trip, and Buckingham Palace was at the top of their must-see list. Emily had been dreaming about this day for weeks. She wasn't excited about the palace itself. She wasn't even interested in the Queen or the royal family. What she really wanted to see, what she had talked about non-stop on the plane, in the hotel, and even during breakfast, was the royal guards. Yes, the famous guards in red coats and tall black hats called bearskins. She had seen them in pictures, in cartoons, and once in a movie, but today she was going to see them in real life. As they reached the palace gates, Emily grabbed her father's hand and practically dragged him forward. "Look, Daddy, they're standing there, just like in the pictures." The guards were standing completely still. Their posture was straight, eyes forward, no movement at all. It was like they had turned into statues. Emily was amazed. "Why don't they move?" she asked her mother. Mrs. Clara smiled and replied, "Because they're trained not to. It's their duty. No matter what happens, people laughing, tourists, waving, even someone shouting, they're not allowed to react." Emily's eyes widened. "Wow! Even if someone dances in front of them?" "Even then," her father chuckled. Emily stood on her tiptoes and looked between the bars of the tall black gate. She could see two guards standing near the main entrance of the palace. They were so still, so serious. She loved it. There was something magical about them. It was like they were part of a fairy tale, only real. After a few minutes, a bell rang. The crowd started murmuring and looking around. "What's happening now?" Emily asked, trying to see over the heads of the tall tourists. "That's the start of the changing of the guard," her dad explained. "Every day the guards on duty are replaced by new ones. It's a royal tradition." And sure enough, from the side, another group of guards started marching in. Their boots hit the ground in perfect rhythm. Clack, clack, clack. Their arms swung in unison. Emily stared, wide-eyed. She had never seen anything so neat and precise. She leaned closer to the barrier, her tiny hands gripping the black rail. Her red coat, which her mom had bought specially for this day, made her look like a miniature version of the guards. She was even wearing a small black hat, one that kind of looked like the guards' bearskin caps, though it was soft and fuzzy. Some tourists near her noticed and smiled. One woman even whispered, "Look at her, she's dressed just like them." How cute! Emily didn't care about being cute. She was focused. She was on a mission. You see, a few weeks before the trip, Emily's grandfather had told her a story. Grandpa George was full of strange and wonderful tales, and one night he told Emily something very special. He said, "Emily, there's a secret royal wave. If you ever go to London and see the royal guards, and if you give them this secret, wave, and if, just if, one of them waves back, it means you're destined for greatness." "Greatness?" Emily had asked. "Yes," Grandpa George had said with a twinkle in his eye. "It means you're special. It means you'll do something amazing in your life." From that day, Emily had been practicing that secret wave. It wasn't just any wave. Grandpa George had shown her exactly how to do it. Straight elbow, gentle twist of the wrist, and eyes focused. Not too fast, not too slow. Like a real royal wave. So now, standing in front of the real guards, Emily knew what she had to do. She looked around. Her parents were busy taking pictures. The tourists were all focused on the marching guards. This was her moment. She took a deep breath, fixed her hat, and gave the wave. It was small, precise, and full of hope. She held the wave for a few seconds, waiting for something magical to happen. But nothing did. The guards kept marching. Their faces didn't change. No one looked at her. No one waved back. Emily's smile faded a little. Maybe the story wasn't true, or maybe she had done the wave wrong. She tried again, this time with a little more courage. She even stood on her toes and waved with both hands. Still, nothing. A couple nearby tourists noticed her effort. One man took a photo. Another woman said, "She's trying so hard. Poor thing." But Emily didn't want pity. She wanted a sign. She stepped back, discouraged. Her parents noticed her and asked what was wrong. "Nothing," she said quietly. "Just tired." They nodded and told her they'd leave soon. Just as they turned around, Emily gave it one last try, one final perfect royal wave. She didn't expect anything to happen. It was just a goodbye wave. And then something did happen. A guard, standing just a few feet away from the entrance gate, blinked. It was quick, barely noticeable. Emily's heart skipped. Had he seen her? He slowly moved his eyes, just his eyes, and looked down. Right at her. Emily froze. And then, the guard lifted his right hand. Not high, not dramatically. Just a small, quiet motion. He waved. It was tiny. It lasted only a second, but it was real. Emily gasped. Her mouth dropped open. She turned to her parents, but they hadn't seen it. She looked back. The guard was already standing still again, like a statue, like nothing had happened. But Emily knew what she had seen. Her chest swelled with pride. Her eyes sparkled. She felt like the queen herself had just knighted her. The little girl in the red coat, who had believed in a story, had just received a royal wave. Emily couldn't stop smiling. Even after the royal guard went back to his statue-like pose, something inside her had changed. It wasn't just excitement anymore. It was magic. A moment. A memory that had touched her heart in a way she couldn't fully explain. As her parents guided her gently away from the gates of Buckingham Palace, Emily kept looking back again and again, hoping to catch one last glimpse of the guard who had broken every rule just to return a little girl's wave. But he didn't look again, and she didn't expect him to. She had received her sign. Back at the hotel that evening, Emily couldn't sit still. While her mom unpacked snacks and her dad scrolled through the photos they had taken, Emily was busy, reenacting the moment in the mirror. She stood in front of the full-length mirror near the cupboard, adjusting her tiny red coat and fluffy black hat. Then, slowly and seriously, she lifted her right hand, straight elbow, gentle wrist, eyes calm. She gave the perfect royal wave, and then she whispered to herself, "I think I'm going to do something amazing someday." Her parents noticed her talking to herself and smiled. "She's still thinking about that guard," Clara whispered to her husband. "Well, he did wave back," Thomas chuckled. "I mean, that's not something you see every day." Emily's mom nodded. "You know, I think it meant something to her. She believed it was a secret sign." Thomas smiled warmly. "Then maybe it was." The next morning, while they had breakfast at a small cafe near the hotel, Emily kept bringing it up. "Mummy," she said with a mouth full of toast, "do you think he was allowed to wave back?" Her mother paused, then answered carefully, "No, sweetie, normally they're not allowed. It's kind of like their job. They have to stay still no matter what." "But he did it anyway," Emily insisted, eyes wide with curiosity. "Why would he break the rule?" Her father put down his coffee. "Well, maybe he saw something special. Maybe he thought it was worth it." Emily nodded slowly. Deep inside, she believed it. She wasn't just any kid. She had sent a secret signal, just like Grandpa George had told her, and someone had received it. But what she didn't know, what nobody knew yet, was that something else had happened during that moment. Something unexpected. While the tourists were busy taking pictures, and Emily's wave had stolen the attention of one royal guard, someone else had also been watching. A woman standing nearby had captured the whole thing on her phone. At first, she was just filming the ceremony like everyone else. But when she noticed the little girl waving and the guard glancing down, she kept the camera rolling, and then she caught it. The wave, a tiny, perfect moment where the guard's hand lifted and returned the little girl's signal. When she got home that night, she uploaded the video to social media. She didn't expect much, maybe a few likes from friends, but by morning, the video had gone viral. It was everywhere. Royal. Guard breaks protocol for adorable girl. Moment of magic at Buckingham Palace. Is this the sweetest video you'll see today? Within hours, hundreds of people were commenting, "OMG, this gave me goosebumps." The way he just had to wave back. Beautiful. Does anyone know who the girl is? That child has a royal heart. But Emily's family had no idea. They weren't on Twitter or TikTok. They spent the day exploring London, visiting the London Eye, riding a red double-decker bus, and eating fish and chips near the River Thames. Emily kept talking about the wave, over and over. She drew it in her travel notebook. A little stick, figure girl, waving at a big tall guard. That night, back at the hotel, her dad turned on the news. And there it was. A blurry phone video. A little girl in a red coat. A royal guard. A wave. Thomas dropped the remote. "Clara! Clara! That's Emily!" Clara rushed over. Her hands flew to her mouth. "Oh my God! That's her! That's our baby girl!" Emily came running from the bathroom, toothbrush in hand. "What happened? Why are you shouting?" Her parents stared at her, half shocked, half laughing. "Sweetie," said her dad, "you're famous." "What?" Emily blinked. "Like Queen famous?" "Almost," her mom said with a laugh. They watched the clip again. Emily's tiny red coat, her perfect wave, the guard's subtle return. The whole world had seen it now, and they loved it. Suddenly their hotel phone rang. It was the front desk. A reporter from a local London paper had called to ask if they could speak with the family of the girl who made the royal guard smile. Things moved fast after that. The next day, a small interview was arranged in the hotel lobby. Emily sat, on a big chair, legs dangling, sipping juice, while a kind young woman with a microphone asked her questions. "How did you feel when the guard waved back?" "Happy," Emily answered honestly. Like it was a secret only for me." "Why did you wave at him?" "Because my grandpa said if a guard ever waves back, it means I'm going to do something amazing." The reporter smiled. "Well, I think you already have." By evening, the story was on multiple websites, and even mentioned in a news segment on British TV. But the most surprising part was still to come. One man saw the story while sitting alone in his barracks, scrolling through his phone after a long shift. His name was Lance Corporal Adam Hayes, the same guard who had returned the wave. At first he was stunned. He had no idea anyone had noticed. He thought it was just a blink of a moment, a tiny risk, something small, human. But now it was everywhere. He leaned back in his chair, watching the replay. There she was, the little girl in red. The way she waved, the determination in her eyes. It had touched something in him, something personal. You see, Adam wasn't just a royal guard. He was also a brother, an older brother to a little girl named Sophie, who had passed away 2 years earlier due to a rare illness. Sophie had been exactly Emily's age, and just like Emily, Sophie loved soldiers. She loved wearing red coats and saluting in the mirror. She used to tell Adam that one day she'd be just like him, strong and still and brave. When he had seen Emily wave, for a split second, he had seen Sophie again. That tiny hand, that proud, little face. He couldn't help it. His hand had moved almost on its own. Now, watching the story unfold online, Adam felt a strange mix of emotions: sadness, joy, peace, maybe even healing. The next day, he requested to speak to his superior. I waved at a little girl during the changing of the guard, he said quietly. His officer raised an eyebrow. I know. You do. It's all over the news. Don't worry, you're not in trouble. We've received hundreds of emails praising you. Adam nodded slowly, shoulders relaxing for the first time in days. That evening, he wrote a short message to the reporter covering Emily's story. If possible, I'd like to send her a note, just to say thank you. Back in Canada, 1 week. Later, Emily received a small package in the mail. It was wrapped in brown paper, with a British flag sticker on the corner. Inside there was a letter on official Buckingham Palace stationery. Dear Emily, you reminded me that kindness and connection matter more than any rule. Thank you for waving at me. It was an honor to wave back. Stay strong, stay magical. Your friend, Lance Corporal Adam Hayes. Along with the letter was a small toy soldier in a red coat and bearskin hat. Emily held it tight to her chest. She didn't say anything for a while. And then she whispered, Told you, Grandpa. It was real. Emily stood there at the palace gates, heart pounding in her chest, still not fully believing what had just happened. A royal guard, a real official uniformed guard, had waved at her. Not just looked at her, waved, even though it was only for a second, even though no one else might have noticed. Emily had felt it. That small motion was just for her, like a little whisper of magic in the middle of all the strictness and silence. The marching ceremony continued. The other guards, tall and serious, kept their perfect steps. Their boots clicked on the stone ground in a rhythm that echoed in the air. Tourists around her clapped and cheered softly, some taking videos, others whispering to each other about how perfect the display was. But Emily wasn't watching the guards anymore. She was still focused on him, the one who had waved. He was back to standing still, arms by his side, face unreadable. If anyone looked at him now, they would never guess he had just done something no one in his position was ever supposed to do. Emily's parents were about to suggest moving on, maybe going for lunch, but Emily held up one finger. Wait, just one more minute, she said quietly. Her mother smiled. Still hoping for another wave? Emily shook her head. No, I just want to say thank you. In my heart. She stood, straight, just like the guard, and gave one last tiny wave. More of a goodbye now than a signal. Her lips moved silently as she whispered, Thank you. Then she turned and walked away with her parents. What Emily didn't know, what she couldn't possibly know at that moment, was how powerful that moment had been. For most people in the crowd, it was just another day. Another changing of the guard ceremony, another bunch of pictures to post on Instagram. But for one person standing behind her, it was the highlight of the day. The woman who had filmed the wave had now posted the video online, and within minutes, it was being shared, like wildfire. The title was simple: Little Girl Wears Guard Costume, Gets Real Wave from Palace Guard. Within an hour, the video had over 20,000 views. Within 3 hours, it had hit $100,000. By evening, it was on the front page of the UK's most popular social media pages and news sites. People were reacting from all over the world. This made my day. Tears. Literal tears. That guard needs a medal for breaking protocol with such kindness. Some people were amazed because they knew how strict the royal guards were. These men were trained never to react. No smiles, no nods, no expressions. They weren't just doing a job. They were symbols of discipline, order, and tradition. So, when one of them moved, really moved, not just by accident but with purpose, it became something extraordinary. Soon, experts were commenting on the video. A former royal guard was interviewed on TV. He explained how serious the training was. "We're told from day one, your job is to be invisible. You do not respond to tourists, no matter how funny, silly, or sweet the situation is." The news anchor asked him, "Then why do you think this guard broke the rule?" The ex-guard paused. Maybe he saw something that reminded him he was human. The video kept spreading. It reached classrooms in Canada, cafes in Paris, parks in Japan. Little kids started practicing the royal wave. Parents used the video to teach their children about kindness and how small moments can be powerful. But the biggest impact of all was on the guard himself. Lance Corporal Adam Hayes. Back in the private rooms of the Palace Guard barracks, Adam sat quietly on his bed. His phone buzzed with messages. Fellow guards sent screenshots of the viral video. Some joked, some cheered. One simply said, "You've broken the internet, mate." But Adam wasn't smiling. He was thinking. About her. About Emily, the girl in the red coat and fluffy black hat, giving him the most serious, hopeful little wave he had ever seen. That moment had shaken something loose inside him. Not in a bad way, more like something had woken up. When he had looked down at her, he had seen not just a tourist child, not just another camera-holding visitor. He had seen Sophie, his sister. She had passed away 2 years ago from a rare illness. She was just 6, full of dreams and silliness, always dressing up in costumes, pretending to be a knight or a superhero or a princess. One of her favorite things to do was copy Adam's military stance. "I'm a guard too," she would say, standing with her toy sword and plastic helmet. After she passed, Adam had buried himself in his work. He became stricter, quieter, more focused. He stopped talking about her. Even when people asked, he'd simply nod and change the subject. But when he saw Emily waving, so determined, so sincere, he felt Sophie's energy again. As if her spirit had somehow stepped into this little girl and crossed the barrier between memory and reality. He had told himself, "Don't do it. Stay still. Don't break the rules." But his heart didn't listen. His hand had lifted slowly, gently. The wave was small, but the emotion behind it was massive. Now, seeing the world react to that one moment, Adam realized something important. That single, simple wave had created joy. For Emily, for her family, for thousands of strangers online. And maybe, for himself too. But now came the difficult part. He had broken protocol. Even though it was just a tiny gesture, and even though people loved it, the army was strict about image and discipline. He had to report the incident to his commanding officer. The next morning, Adam stood tall in front of his superior. "I waved at a child during ceremony, sir," he said simply. His officer raised one eyebrow, clearly aware of the viral video. He remained quiet for a long moment, then said, "We've seen the footage. You broke the rule. No denying that. But," Adam held his breath, "you reminded people that even behind a uniform, there's a heart. Consider this your verbal warning, but also well done." Adam exhaled, relieved. He didn't care about medals or news articles. He only cared that the moment had mattered. But even that wasn't the end, because a few days later, someone knocked on the door of his room. It was a young officer holding a small envelope. "This arrived for you," the officer said, handing it over. Inside was a letter written in the careful handwriting of a child. "Dear Guard, I don't know your name, but thank you for waving at me. I was really nervous. I practiced my wave a lot. My grandpa said if a royal guard ever waves back, it means I'll do something amazing. I believe him. Your wave made me feel like a queen. Love, Emily." From Canada. Adam sat down, eyes stinging. He read the letter again. And again. He picked up a pen. For the first time in 2 years, he started writing back, not as a soldier, but as someone who had felt pain, joy, and healing all in one tiny wave. Dear Emily, you made me remember someone I loved very much. Your wave helped me too. I think you will do something amazing someday. Thank you for reminding me that kindness matters more than perfection. Stay brave. Your friend, Lance Corporal Adam Hayes. Back in Canada, Emily's life had changed in a way no one expected. Before the London trip, she was just a quiet little girl who loved stories, fairy tales, and dressing up in costumes. She wasn't famous, she wasn't a YouTuber, and she didn't have thousands of followers. She was just Emily, the girl who waved. But after the video of the Royal Guard returning, her wave went viral. Everything around her became brighter, louder, and a little bit magical. One morning, Emily's parents received a call from her school principal. At first, they thought maybe something was wrong. But then the voice on the other side said, "We'd like to celebrate Emily. What she did, what happened with that guard, it's beautiful. It touched so many hearts. We'd love to do a small assembly and recognize her." Emily's mom smiled. She'd love that. The next week, Emily walked into school wearing the same red coat she had worn in London. As she stepped into the assembly hall, all her classmates clapped for her. Some even waved like royal guards, making her giggle. Her principal called her up to the stage. "Sometimes one small act can change the world," the principal said kindly. Emily reminded us that even in a world full of rules, kindness matters. She didn't shout. She didn't try to go viral. She simply waved and made a connection. Emily accepted a small trophy. It read, "The wave that touched the world." After the assembly, kids came up to her asking questions. "Did the Queen call you? Are you going to be in a movie? Can I have your autograph?" Emily didn't know how to answer most of those questions. She just laughed and said, "I'm still just Emily." At home, her parents noticed something different about her. Not louder, not prouder, just stronger, more confident. She started volunteering to read aloud in class. She made a handmade card for the school janitor and left it with a chocolate bar on his cleaning cart. She stood up when one kid was being teased on the playground. It was like the wave had unlocked something inside her, and something else was coming. One evening, a letter arrived. This one was thicker, more official-looking than the others. The envelope was pale cream with gold letters at the top that read, "Buckingham Palace." Emily's mom opened it slowly and gasped. "Oh my goodness." Her dad came over, curious. "What is it?" Emily looked up from her coloring book. Her mom handed the letter to her husband, covering her mouth in surprise. He read it aloud. "Miss Emily Carter, on behalf of the royal household and with the warmest regards of Her Majesty the Queen, you are cordially invited to return to London as a guest of honor at the upcoming Youth Friendship Day event to be held at Buckingham Palace Gardens. Your recent story, shared widely across the world, has reminded many of the value of kindness, hope, and connection. We would be honored by your presence. Sincerely, the Royal Events Office." Emily's eyes widened. "Wait, me? They want me to come back?" Her parents nodded, still trying to process what just happened. Emily jumped off her chair and hugged them both tightly. "I'm going to the palace," she whispered in disbelief. The next few weeks were like a dream. Reporters visited her school. A local clothing brand gifted her a new red coat with her initials stitched on the inside. A small travel agency offered to sponsor the trip for the family, saying, "We just want to be part of something beautiful." The day they flew back to London, Emily stared out the plane window, wondering if the guard would remember her. Would she see him again? Would he wave again? Or would he be somewhere far away, maybe never knowing how much he had changed her life? When they arrived, they were greeted at the airport by 2 staff members from the royal events team. They were kind, formal, and a little bit funny. One of them knelt to speak to Emily. "Miss Carter, it's an honor. Her Majesty heard of your story and smiled." "That doesn't happen very often, you know," Emily giggled. They were taken to a guest residence, not a hotel, but a small royal guest house near the palace gardens. It was cozy, peaceful, and had tea and biscuits ready on the table. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. She sat by the window looking out at the London skyline. Lights twinkled far away, and the soft sounds of the city filled the air. She held the toy soldier the guard had sent her. It still had a small paper tag on it that read, "Stay brave." The next morning, everything happened fast. She was dressed in a new outfit, her hair braided carefully by a kind woman from the events team. Her red coat was waiting near the door. A black car arrived to take them to Buckingham Palace. When they pulled through the gates, Emily gasped. The building looked even bigger and more royal than she remembered. Golden fences, marble stairs, the huge British flag flying proudly above the roof. She was led through special gates and into the private garden section, where rows of chairs and beautiful flower displays had been arranged. There were children from different countries, kids who had done amazing things. Some had raised money for charities. Some had invented small machines. Some had written books or survived big challenges. And there was Emily, just a girl who waved. But to the people there, she was a symbol. One by one, the event's host introduced each child. When it was Emily's turn, the crowd clapped longer than usual. She stood on a small stage and smiled shyly. She didn't have a speech, but the host whispered, "Say anything you want." So she did. "I didn't do anything big," she began. "I just waved, but I think sometimes small things are big, because they make people feel seen." The guard didn't have to wave back, but he did. And because of that, I believed in myself a little more. There was silence. Then thunderous applause. In the corner of her eye, Emily noticed something. A man in a familiar uniform, the red coat, the black hat, but this time no mask of silence. He was smiling. Adam Hayes stood near the side of the garden, quietly watching, pride written all over his face. He wasn't in formation. He wasn't being a statue. He was simply there. Emily's heart jumped. After the event, he approached carefully. "Miss Carter," he said, saluting softly. Emily giggled and saluted back. "I hoped you'd be here," she said. "I had to be," he replied. "You changed my life." Emily tilted her head. "But I thought you changed mine." He chuckled. "Maybe we did it together." They talked for a few minutes while people bustled around them. He told her about his sister, Sophie, about why the wave had mattered, and how, in that tiny gesture, he had felt her spirit again. "I thought I had to forget her," he said, "but you helped me remember." Emily reached into her coat pocket and handed him something, a small note. Inside it read, "Sometimes remembering is the bravest thing." Adam didn't say anything. He just nodded and blinked quickly to hold back the tears. Before they left the palace, Emily took one last walk through the garden with her parents. The sun was setting, casting golden light over the flowers and statues. "I don't know what I want to be when I grow up," Emily said, "but I know I want to help people feel seen." Her parents smiled, and for the first time her father said something she'd remember forever. "You already are." Time passed. Summer turned into autumn. Then winter came, with soft snow falling on rooftops and trees, covering the world in white. Emily was back home in Canada, but everything around her had changed. Not just her city, her school, or her daily routine, but she had changed. People still sometimes stopped her on the street, smiled, and said, "Hey, aren't you the little girl who waved at the guard?" And she would smile back, nod politely, and say, "Yes, that was me." But for Emily, that story had become much more than just a viral video. It was no longer just a memory about a soldier breaking protocol. It had become a spark, one that kept growing inside her, like a warm light that never faded. She started doing things she never thought she could do before. She joined her school's kindness club. She spoke to younger students about being brave and kind. She even wrote her very first storybook called The Girl Who Waved First, a picture book about a little girl who teaches a kingdom how to feel again. And she didn't stop there. She helped organize small fundraisers, bake sales, book drives, and snow shoveling days for elderly neighbors. People started saying, "That Emily, she's different. She's got something special." But Emily didn't do any of it to be famous. She just felt something pull her forward, like a quiet voice in her heart saying, "Keep going. Keep waving." Meanwhile, far across the ocean in London, Adam Hayes continued serving in the Royal Guard. But things were different for him, too. He still followed the rules, still wore his uniform with pride, still stood at attention during long ceremonies. But inside, he felt something had healed. He no longer hid his sister's memory. In fact, he spoke of her often now. He even volunteered at children's hospitals during his free time, telling stories, bringing joy, and occasionally, just occasionally, giving a secret little wave to the kids who needed it most. People noticed a new kindness in him. Other guards respected him. One senior officer even said, "Hayes, you've got the discipline of a soldier, but the heart of a teacher." And then one day, something amazing happened. Emily received another letter. But this one wasn't from the palace. It was from a charity organization called Hope Across Borders. They had seen her video, followed her journey, and wanted to start something with her. The letter said, "Emily, we'd like to partner with you to launch a global campaign called The First Wave. It's a kindness project where children from different countries write letters to strangers, simple notes full of encouragement and hope, and they send them with a drawing of a wave, just like the one you gave. We believe this can spread across the world, starting with you." Emily read the letter 3 times. She couldn't believe it. She ran to her parents and shouted, "Can we do this? Can I say yes?" Her mom hugged her. "Of course you can. You started this journey. You might as well lead it." So the first wave began. Emily made a short video inviting kids from around the world to join. In the video, she said, "One little wave changed my life. Maybe your letter will change someone else's. You never know who's waiting to feel seen." The campaign took off. In less than 2 months, over 40,000 letters had been sent. From Brazil to Japan, Kenya to New Zealand, children wrote to other children, to soldiers, to doctors, to teachers, to lonely grandparents, to new refugees. The letters came with hand-drawn waves, smiley faces, or hearts. Some letters were funny, some were thoughtful, some were deeply emotional. One letter, from a 7-year-old girl in India, read, "Dear soldier, I don't know your name, but I want to say thank you. I hope your shoes are not too tight." Another, from a boy in Germany, said, "Dear Grandma somewhere, if no one visits you, I want to say I would have come if I lived closer." Emily read dozens every day, sometimes with a smile, sometimes with tears. And the beautiful thing was, it kept growing. Local news covered it, then national news, then international news again. The Queen herself mentioned it in a short public message, calling the project a shining example of modern goodwill. And one day, as Emily was helping organize letters with a group of volunteers, she received a video message. It was from Adam Hayes. He was sitting in a small room, still in uniform, but this time without the stiff silence. He looked directly at the camera, calm and kind. "Emily, this movement you've started, it's bigger than both of us now. But I want to tell you something. I never thought a child could change the course of a soldier's life. But you did. You reminded me that behind all the rules, all the formality and all the silence, there are still hearts beating inside us. You waved, I waved back, and the world felt it. Thank you, my little friend. Keep waving. Emily watched the video quietly, then smiled and whispered, I will. Years passed. Emily grew up. She became a speaker, a writer, and a youth ambassador. But no matter how big her world became, she never forgot the wave. She wore a small pin on her coat shaped like a little hand, always reminding her of the moment everything began. She and Adam stayed in touch. They wrote letters often. Sometimes they met in person during events or visits. One summer, they even returned together to the palace gardens for an anniversary event. Emily, now a teenager, walked beside Adam, who had since retired from royal service and now worked full-time with children's charities. They stood side by side, looking at the crowds, the red uniforms, the young children waving from behind ropes and fences. Adam nudged her gently. Think anyone will get waved at today? Emily laughed softly. I hope so. But even if they don't, maybe they'll wave anyway. He nodded. That's the spirit. And just then, as if the universe was smiling, a small girl near the front waved at them, her eyes wide with hope. Without even thinking, Emily raised her hand and waved back. The girl beamed, and her parents clapped. Adam chuckled. Looks like the wave lives on. Emily turned to him, her eyes warm. It was never just a wave, was it? No, Adam said. It was a beginning. And in that moment, under the same sky where it all began, they both understood something deeper than words. One small act, done with heart, can create a ripple that never ends. Not every hero wears a cape. Not every royal wears a crown. And sometimes, the most powerful gesture in the world is just one little wave from one brave little girl.